Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hard Nine Podcast. Today is March the 7th, 2024. That means 3 weeks from today, we will have official games that matter, Cardinals baseball, and it will be TBD already for game one on the bump for the Cardinals.
I didn't know TBD were Miles Michaelis's initials.
Oh, get used to the TBD in 2024 after 2023. It seems like we're right back in that seat.
Well, the good news, I might as well get into it. Sonny Gray has a hamstring strain, mild. Um, they didn't say the grade, which makes me think it's not grade one because that might be something you want to put out there if it is. So what's being said is most likely 2 to 3 weeks of not throwing off a mound is what's likely, I would say. And I think if you're in the middle of the season and this is June, right, and Sonny Gray has this problem, you say, okay, he'll be back in 3 weeks, probably in a major league game. Problem is, he hasn't thrown more than 2 innings in a game yet. So if it takes him, let's just say, let's be conservative here and say it takes 3 weeks from the day that it happened, which was what, Monday? Is that right? Yeah, Monday. 3 weeks from that day for him to be pitching in a major league game again. He's starting from square one, right? Like we would assume so. So we're looking at, I mean, optimistically, 2, 3 starts minimum he's going to miss. That's an optimistic look. But
That's
for me,
very
he's 34
optimistic.
years old. The thing that frustrates me is they should have built a rotation good enough to where you can slow play this and say,
That
Sonny, we need you back, but we also need you really back when you're back. But they haven't done that.
So you called me. I was at work Monday at the golf course. Tough. Everyone who understands knows it's a very difficult job that I have at the golf course. So,
Sure.
love it, but very like taxing, whatever.
You shut up.
Anyway, you called me and you said, "Who is the one person that the Cardinals could not afford an injury to?" And after it kind of processed what you were saying, my immediate reaction was Sonny Gray. And you said he just got hurt. And my reaction, if you remember, was what did I do? I literally just started laughing because that's all you can do at this point. Here's the thing, and I haven't been on Twitter as much lately because I've been working quite a bit actually, but um you kind of summed it up there. When you build a rotation around hoping that everybody's healthy, and if the one guy isn't, you're fucked. We're right back. It feels like I'm not gonna jump off the ship. I'm not going over the cliff yet, but boy does it not feel like we're right back in the throes of 2023.
No, because once again, I don't think he's going to be out very long, right? So I don't like that. He's a hamstring injury. Pitchers don't miss entire months with mild hamstring injuries. Now, if you want to say the Cardinals aren't always forthcoming with how bad injuries are, I agree with that.
There you
But
go.
Sonny Gray would have no reason to lie, and he talked about it and said he's dealt with it in the past, but it's not even as bad as previous ones. I don't know. Um, the problem, once again, the problem I have is like I said something on Twitter where I was like, the problem is they're overly reliant on a 34-year-old to be healthy. And it's not that Sonny Gray's not a great pitcher. I'm not saying that. I'm glad he's a Cardinal. The problem is he's the one they're relying how much of
Yes.
the season's on his back? Like if he's out
It's
for a month, 2 months, like that's at any point in time. And like I'm not gonna predict that. I want to put this out there. I feel awful for Sonny. That's horrible. He was gonna be the opening day starter on his new team, and now he can't. But I'm not going to predict he's going to get hurt, but it's not unlikely for 34-year-old pitchers to have injuries for stretches.
well, and
So
here's the thing. The concerning thing to me is he missed 2 to 3 weeks last year with a hamstring issue.
2 years
This
ago,
isn't the first. Was it 2 years ago? I thought it was last year. My
2022.
apologies. This isn't the first time the hamstrings popped up. Also, you kind of hit on it as well with the Cardinals. I would have been shocked if it was anything other than a mild hamstring issue when it was reported. There was
Mm-hmm.
no way, in my opinion, that even if it is worse, which by the way, let's hope it's not. But even if it was, we were going to hear that. I just feel like the optics that they
Mm-hmm.
were going to throw out there was, oh, it's all okay. The rats are not jumping off the ship just yet. Even though I wouldn't be shocked, Caleb, I'll be honest, that we don't see Sonny Gray till mid-May. I mean, I would not be shocked if that's the case.
It's not out of the question for sure. Like one setback, and that's where you're looking. But um, the one thing is, like, if you have a serious hamstring injury, it's hard to hide. Like it's hard. Like Sonny Gray wouldn't be walking out to the media if he had like a seriously torn hamstring that was like in a bad place. So I don't think it's that. I do think it's mild, but I do think they're downplaying a little bit how tricky hamstring injuries can be to come back from. It's not as simple as, okay, this is your timetable. He's going to be back in 3 weeks, and then it's going to go smoothly from
Right.
there on. It's soft tissue issues don't work that way. That's why an oblique injury is like almost a death sentence for a hitter for a season, because it's just going to keep popping up if it's not taken care of correctly. Ask Max Scherzer. So it's tough. I don't know. The one thing that's just so annoying, and I was trying to get to this earlier, but I got sidetracked, was people are like, well, if any team loses their ace, they're in a bad place. Please, someone tell me how long the Braves were without Max Fried last year.
Or Spencer Strider.
Well, they had Spencer Strider the whole year, but that's not.
I thought he missed their time at the end, didn't he?
I think he threw 30 something starts. Like he was in the
Oh,
30
my
ish
apologies. I
range.
thought he missed like most of September
But
or
either
part of
way,
September.
that's not my point. They
Right.
have Spencer Strider. Like that's
Right.
who you have. One of those two goes down, you have the other one, and now they have Chris Sale. So like the Dodgers lose Yamamoto or Glass now for any period of time, they have the other one and Bobby Miller and Walker Bueller. So
Well, also
no, it's
last
not
year,
every team that if they lose their top starter, they're screwed like the Cardinals are. That's not the Cardinals built
Dodgers
their
lost
team
Bueller. They
that
lost
way.
May last year. They lost Kershaw last year. They lost
Mhm.
all of those guys.
I can't believe that team
Absolutely.
won 100 games. Did you know
I,
they didn't have one pitcher that made 25 starts or more?
I saw that. Yeah.
That's the most fugazi team I've ever seen play baseball in my life.
You said it. What I will say back to your point before that is, I do think there is a spot in between mild hamstring and seriously torn. Like there's a
Mm.
lot of area in between there. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's, all the way to the worst. What I'm telling you is I was not shocked when they came out with mild. I would have been shocked had they said something else. I I just am concerned that this is a while. And if you remember, this is why I started laughing, right? When you told me, not at Sonny Gray's injury ever, right? No way. Because I
That is
wanted
actually
him.
what you
I
laughed
told
at.
no, that's not what I laughed at. By no means was I laughing at Sonny Gray's injury. Here's the reason why. Do you remember in November and December when we came on to our podcast and we were really hopeful that there was a Yamamoto, maybe a Glass Now deal, maybe whatever else, fill in the blank, Dylan Cease,
Mhm.
all of those guys, right?
Yeah.
We were talking about how you really have to find a way to have a rotation where Miles Michaelis is your at worst, no, at best, your number three,
Mm.
preferably your number four. We are back in a world where he is once again your opening day starter because, and I'm not gonna blame all of it on Mo because there is obviously
I
when you
am. Well, yeah, you're right.
well
You're
the
right.
money spending has to come from
Well,
DeWitt. So
I continue with your point, but I have something to say
right.
about that. But yeah.
What I will say is once again we did not fortify this at all. You literally built a house of cards. Ha! Did not mean that as a pun. It just came out that way. But you really did to where you pull one and that one happens to be Sonny Gray, your ace, and the whole house is gone again. Again. Not this isn't just year two that we've done this, by the way.
Mm-hmm. It was like year 10. So here's the I agree. Like obviously it's DeWitt should spend more money, but let's be honest. Bill DeWitt is spending like I get that there's a difference between opening day and CBT payroll, but to be honest with you, I don't care about that because why do I care when Bill DeWitt gives Sonny Gray his $25 million? He's giving it to him.
Right.
So I don't really care
Correct.
what year that happens. So I kind of think it's annoying that people only look at the opening day payroll just because like why do you care about accounting stuff? Like who cares? Like, do you care that Nolan Arenado's making $35 million this year, but his CBT hit is like 25? Do
Right.
you care about that? No, so then don't care about it the other way too. Like that makes no sense to me. But here's the thing I will say: if I'm Bill DeWitt and Mo's coming to me right now, it says we need an extra 20 to $30 million to go after Snell, Montgomery on a short deal with opt outs because that's probably what they're going to get. If I'm Bill DeWitt, I'm saying, well, didn't you tell me Miles Michaelis was worth 2 years, $40 million last offseason? Well, why do I have to pay another guy because you were wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't you tell me that Steven Matz was worth $44 million over 4 years? What about these two old guys we just signed for a combined 25 million? So why do I gotta spend more because you did your job wrong? So I get the point where it's like DeWitt could spend more. All that I 100% agree. He probably should be spending up to or even over the CBT realistically with how much money they bring in a year. But on the flip side of it, he's not spending. He's not cheap on how much he's spending on the rotation. He's spending a lot of money on the rotation.
Yes.
Moselak's just having 4 starters making $20 million a year.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see where the Cardinals stand in the National League as far as allocated funds to the starting rotation. Like, I'm
They
sure we
were
could
like
find
top
that
five
out.
last year.
Yes, they have to be again, right?
It's gone up. It's gone up.
Because the Mets are no longer in the top five.
They're still paying them technically, but yeah, probably not. If you're talking about the people
Yeah,
on their
right. I
roster,
meant
but
the
yeah,
guys who are on the roster.
yeah,
Absolutely.
no, definitely not.
Um, okay, I brought this up, and I feel like we're going to be all gloom and doom, and I don't think that that's. I mean, we say this like before. You're probably going to text me in about 20 minutes after the podcast and say, "Was that too negative?" But I don't think we're being negative because this is the reality of what is Cardinal baseball, and it is the reality of what is Cardinal fandom. And here is my question to you. I put this out on Twitter the other day because it is staring us right in the face 3 weeks away from opening day. We're going to go into LA and we're going to face Yamamoto, Glasnow, and fill in the blank. I don't know who's Miller
And Bueller,
and
4 game
Bueller.
series.
4 game series, right. Then we're going to go to San Diego, where we've never really had success. At least it feels like
No,
recently,
we
not
haven't.
recent
Not lately.
success. Okay. Then we do come home for opening day. Hoorah. First time in a few years. I'm not going to be there. Hopefully you get to go and have a good time. But you're going to see potentially Perez, Luzardo, AJ Puck. I mean, fill in the blank. I don't know who that third
AJ
one is.
Puck, throw him
Well,
in
he's
there.
been great this spring.
Braxton Garrett's hurt now, isn't he? So
Right. So
who
AJ Puck has
knows?
been really, really good. I'm just saying you're going to face
Yeah,
three,
I mean, you're gonna face
at
good
least
pitching.
two studs, potentially three. And then
Well,
the
yeah,
Phillies come into town. Shout out Zach Wheeler for that deal, by the way. Got
crazy.
great for him. But you're potentially going to face Wheeler, Nola, and what, Suarez? Like, is that what you're going to get
That's it.
potentially?
This all lines up that way. Like
I get
if
it,
you
but
looked
what
at it
I'm
now,
saying
we wouldn't
is
be facing Perez or Lazardo against Miami the way it would line up.
your first 16 games are all against playoff teams. Now, the Padres were not. I understand that, but they are potential playoff teams for
Yeah,
this
playoff
year.
caliber teams potentially. Yeah,
Correct. I we were hoping, and we've already talked about the first 35 because yeah, you get a little breather with the A's potentially, but then you've got the Brewers twice in there. You've got the Diamondbacks. Oh, that by the way, they're in that 16 also. You
they're
then
really
have to go to
good.
Arizona. We know what that looks like out there. I
They're a really good
I
team too.
you know where I'm going with this, that I am
Yeah, it's
incredibly
tough.
concerned that we're going to be buried again by the time April finishes.
Yeah, there's a chance. There is. I'm not gonna say that's definitely gonna happen or not. Like it's baseball. Like, would it shock me if Miles Michaelis and Kyle Gibson threw 2 solid games in LA and we split a series? No, that's definitely within the range of outcomes. Like that's not an impossible thing to have happen. Here's the issue I have, and I don't think Sonny's gonna miss many starts. Like if I were to predict right now, which obviously premature, we have no idea. I don't think he has any idea. He said he feels fine right now. He's gonna see how the next 5 days play out, and that's gonna tell him where they go from there. Um, I think he'll probably be back by the end of April. That would be my guess. Now, that might be conservative or it might be aggressive. We'll see in the next probably week or 2 weeks how he's progressing. Here's where I'm concerned is not necessarily this injury itself, because once again, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it'll be okay. It's now we're getting a view of what it looks like if this happens again. Like we're getting to look like would it be shocking if a 34-year-old has an injury riddled season? No, like I don't want that to happen. I'm not predicting it, but it happens all the time. Think about how many injuries Clayton Kershaw's had over the last 5 years. He's like 34 right now, like 35. Like that's not uncommon. So it is concerning
I mean,
that this
to,
is their rotation. If just one thing goes wrong, just one.
to add to your point, we've seen Madison Bumgarner fall off the proverbial cliff at about
Mhm.
30 and
Yeah.
not and have trouble staying healthy and on a roster for the last 3 to 4 years, to be fair.
Yeah. Pitching's
Um
hard.
with that, yeah, it's very difficult. Baseball is very fucking difficult.
Not easy.
With that, let me ask you two questions, okay? Do you see any possibility? And I know last week you told me you don't want Monty as a Cardinal because of some past issues. I get that. He's still sitting out there, by the way, and it is March the 7th.
Not
Or
past
Blake
issues,
Snell
but
coming into St.
yeah.
Louis. Do you see any of that as even I mean, I know that when people put it on Twitter, it's like, okay, that sounds great. I don't see it happening. But what do you actually think? So that's question one. If the answer is yes, then that kind of eliminates my question number two, which is if not, who do you see that being? Is it Zach Thompson? Is it Graceffo? Is it somebody else that maybe Libertor? What do you think they do there in that number 5 spot? Go.
Um, if they were to bring, so right now the Cardinals are $22 million shy of the first luxury tax. Which by the way, not pretty good, honestly, to be even that close. They've never been that close. So right now, no, I don't think that's something. If there were to be another injury, knock on wood, you'd have to. At that point, you'd have to. I'm sorry, DeWitt, you're gonna have to spend a little bit extra money because if you don't, they're going to sink. So hopefully that doesn't happen. There's not another injury. But if there was, I would think that conversation would become a lot more serious than it is now. So I'm gonna say I don't see it happening. I would be great if we get something that says they're in talks with him. I'd be shocked. So other than Boris maybe manipulating the media. And then the next thing is who's going to be, I don't know, Thompson, Libertor, Graceffo, Roby, Roberta, Klopfenstein, every one of them should be competing for the job. Because I don't see why any of them should have just be given it. Because none of them have earned it. So Thompson to me is the lead guy because he was pretty good down the stretch last year. But as far as I'm concerned, give everybody a shot, and whoever legitimately is the best gets the job.
Jake Woodford signing coming soon.
He's in Chicago, the White Sox.
I was kidding. Here's the issue with like you saying if someone gets hurt, right? Those guys are going to probably be gone in the next week. I assume. Like I keep saying that, and they're still there.
I don't
But
know, man. I don't know.
if you have another like, this is the problem again when you build a house of cards. Like it collapses so easily, and we've seen this so often that it almost feels like deja vu all over again. To quote our guy Yogi, like that's really what it feels like. And if Monty and Snell are gone, what are you going to call John Lester and J.A. Happ out of retirement? You getting
Adam
T.J.
Wainwright.
McFarland back to become a starter? Like what? I'm Adam
At that
Wainwright coming
point, you're
back.
screwed. Yeah, and I yeah, that's true. And I don't know when they're going to sign, but it doesn't seem like just based off what I've read, what I've been watching, that either of those two are remotely close to signing right now.
Yeah,
Now that could
Heyman was
change literally
on.
with one phone call.
In the past, I've asked you to put on all the hats.
It
Right, I've
frustrates
made
me.
you wear the GM hat, the batting coach, the pitching coach, Ollie's hat. We put them all on, right?
Mhm.
Now I want you to wear the hat of Joe, Fan, South County Steve, those guys. All right. So I want you to be
Gotcha.
this guy for a minute, just
Okay.
just in fandom, not in anything else. Okay.
Okay.
You talked about the 22 million before we get to the CBD. As
CBT.
Joe, as what I say,
We're not
CBD.
getting to we're not getting to marijuana.
Well, I'm in New Orleans. That's the Central Business District. That's where that came from.
Mm.
I apologize. Either way, I meant the CBT. Um, Explain to Joe Fan, South County Steve, and make it make sense to where what is more important when I am going and I'm bringing my family of four to a Cardinal game and I'm dropping $150 for tickets. I'm spending $25 to park. A beer is now $14 and a hot dog is $7. Fed all of them. So I've just dropped $300 to come into the gate to watch one singular baseball game. All right.
Mm.
So explain to me why we're scared to go over that threshold when it means we could make our team dramatically better and put a winning product on the field. So yeah, it costs you 25 million and then a little bit over that tax threshold, or we're left with what we saw in 2023, in 2022, in 2021. Do you see what like that's where I think as a fan it gets so frustrating when you're dealing with a billionaire
Mm.
and you're charging these prices, and I still understand that baseball is still the cheapest sport. I understand all that.
And St.
But
Louis charges
as
pretty
a
decent
parent,
prices.
as a parent who was a teacher with a wife who was a teacher and three kids, taking all five of us, if I didn't get good like cheap tickets, was very expensive for your mom and I to go to just one game, to take all of you
Mm.
and have hot dogs and sodas and whatever. So I understand it's the cheapest, but it's hard to explain to the fans that okay, I'd rather just put a mediocre product out there instead of going a little
Well,
bit
that's
over the
unfair,
luxury.
Dad. That's unfair because Bill DeWitt has not. You have been alive during the entire run of Bill DeWitt's era. Would
At
you
this
call it
point, I'm
mediocre?
talking okay, I'm not talking 2012, I'm not
I
talking
get it.
2011 or 2013. I'm talking in 2024 when you know what you need. You know what this team needs. You and I have been on here for months now
Mm.
talking about how excited we are for the offense. You've got two constant perennial MVP candidates at the corners who are getting older. You've got all this young talent who is unheralded. You just brought in a catcher that you're paying $20 million to with an awesome, exciting young catcher right behind him. The makings and your bullpen seems to be loaded right now. So the one thing you need is starting pitching. So to tell the fans that, like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to go over this for the one thing we need in a division that is winnable every fucking year, it's really hard to hear and to swallow.
Yeah, but I understand it. It is frustrating, and I go back to like the fact that he shouldn't have to be doing this. He shouldn't have to go over the luxury tax to have a full rotation. That is on the player development of this organization. You
We
know how this
agree.
offseason would have been easier if they had 2 4 and 5s that they didn't have to pay, and they could go get Sonny Gray and someone else. That's
We
how
agree
this offseason's
wholeheartedly.
easier. So if
But
I'm,
unfortunately,
if
that's
he's
not where we
paying
are.
5 starters, Dad. He's
I
paying five.
That's where you are because either you've hired inept people to do scouting or they're just bad at their jobs. I don't know the answer there, or it's been bad luck because, like you said, pitching is very hard. Like, we
Yeah,
understand that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
you've missed on a lot of people, and the two people you hit on, you dealt. I'm not even going to get into that because we at the time we were excited. That was the right deal probably to make. So
Mm, no, it wasn't, but that's okay. I mean, it wasn't. Like sometimes you can use hindsight. They didn't do their job. Um, it's the same reason why when we go to Applebee's, we're paying $15 for boneless wings that cost $1 to make. They
I don't
want
go
to
to
make
Applebee's.
money. They
I don't go
want
to Applebee's.
right. So if you don't want to pay for the game, you don't go. But I do get it. Like it's frustrating. I don't think the price of going to a Cardinal game plays a factor into this much because, like I said, it is so much cheaper. Their payroll is almost the same as the Boston Red Sox right now. And try going to a Red Sox game.
I understand what you're saying, but I do think for a lot of families, we saw it in the second half last year.
Mhm.
When you, I mean, yeah, those tickets were bought. I understand all of that, but those seats were, that stadium was empty in July, August, and September. July, that stadium was empty. I've
There's a lot
never,
to do in the summer.
since the early 90s, I have not seen that. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I understand what you're saying, but when you're looking at the price of everything going up, if you're a family of 4 or 5 in the middle class to lower middle class area, you're going to start weighing, and that's good. I'm not saying that's not going to be or only going to be the thought. It's going to be part of it. It has to be part of it because you create
Yeah.
a budget every week.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree. And I'm not really trying to defend the way he should spend more money than he does, I think. He should be more aggressive, less risk averse. I think it comes down to he's learned the wrong lessons so many times. Like he learned like when they didn't sign David Price, when the Giancarlo Stanton deal fell through, and when the Jason Hayward deal when he went to Chicago for less money. Those 3 players, arguably 3 of the worst contracts in baseball. Um, and they dodged those bullets. So
Can
I
I add?
think
Did
his
you say
lesson
Albert?
learned. No, yeah. I mean, yeah,
They dodged that
that's fair as
bullet
well.
too.
Yeah, but that would have been okay because I think he would have been better in St. Louis. But yeah, um, those 3 players specifically, Albert aside, because all those were after Albert. I think he learned that it's not the smartest business move to go after big free agents. And like realistically, it's not. Like watch the Yankees right now. Watch what's happening with Carlos Rodon right in front of our eyes.
Again, again.
Yeah, like, it's not good. It's not the best way to build a team. The thing that made them so great for so long was they were ahead of everybody else when it came to they would bring up guys like Tyler Lyons every year, like 3 or 4 of him. They would make 10 starts when someone got hurt and they'd be fine. They'd give you a 4 ERA and you'd win a lot of their games. They don't do that anymore. And because of that, and because of the fact that they're not spending with the Phillies, who, in 5 years, yeah, it's going to be horrible there probably. But right now they're really good. They're not doing either of them. So now it's just we're in this middle place that they can't get out of.
Yeah, I think we are totally in agreement that the lack of player development with pitching has put them where they are. But that's the reality of the 2024 Cardinals, and honestly, for the foreseeable future, until we hope that a Roby, a Hentz, a
Mm.
Graceffo, a McGreevy, a Chirpy, all
Jerpy.
those guys step
They're
up. Like,
close. They're
right, I
close.
agree. As you know, I was very apprehensive about these first 16 and 35 games anyway, and we've talked about that on here. But boy, does it feel like that mountain just grew exponentially.
I mean, it did, yeah, and it's going to be tough. But once again, I don't think he's going to be gone that long. I really don't. Like if he misses 3 or 4 starts, that's 4 games you can impact, and you might win 2 of them, right? You might have Zach Thompson step in, and he might be good, and you might win 2 of his 4 starts, and then
Hold
it's
on.
like, okay, you lost 2 games because of it.
That's
What?
mid-April. I mean, that's the third week of April if he's back.
Yeah, I mean,
You
yeah,
said
that's
late April.
I said
I'm
mid-April.
saying, oh, I thought you said the end of it
Oh,
by the end of
I think I
April.
said by late April was what I said.
Okay, well, I hope you are right, by the way. I hope that you put
Dude,
on the
it's a
doctor
hamstring.
hat
It's not a
and we're
he
in.
didn't it's not an arm injury. Like I will
No.
put it this way, if this is the worst injury that comes out of spring training, great. Like honestly, great. That's too happened to the wrong person, but great. Um, but the problem is if they have another injury. Oh, like then are they gonna get Michael Lorenzen? Is that the move? Like if they have
Prob
another injury, it's
yes.
bad. Like that's bad.
Um,
Honestly,
can
right
you
now it wouldn't be that
imagine?
bad of an idea to sign Michael Lorenzen. It wouldn't be
I
horrible.
agree. I agree with you.
He can be
Can
a
you
reliever
imagine
if he
though?
needs to.
Can you imagine if this team would have also signed Lucas Giolito and
Oh
this
my
would have
gosh.
popped up?
Dude, I feel
Bro,
so bad for him, dude. I
so
feel
do
so
I.
bad for him.
Terrible. Cardinals Twitter would have burned down. But I'm with you. I feel terrible for Lucas Giolito. Like
I like
you
Lucas a
know that
lot.
all he wanted to do was go pitch in Boston and make a great impression being up
Mhm.
there. Like you knew
And he's a
that.
great dude from everything I've
Correct.
heard and every podcast I've watched with him. So I feel awful for him. That's horrible. But yeah, he might miss the first year and a half of his 2 year deal with the Red Sox. Like realistically, if he gets Tommy John, hopefully he doesn't have to, but it's sounding like it's trending that way.
Hey,
Sucks.
is it wild to look back on the last few off seasons and just look at the Twitter sphere, which I think is just a little focus group. I've heard other people say that, so that's not my words. I'm stealing those
What
from
do you mean?
someone. Like that. Here's I'm getting there. Like the people who were dramatically wanted to be signed by by Cardinal fans. Rodon, Montas, who missed the whole year, Giolito, who's out, Trevor Bauer, got to throw that one in there. They're still clamoring for that somehow. And then obviously, I mean, I think I'm missing there was another one that I was thinking of also who they were clamoring for, but
I
then
mean Yamamoto,
obviously,
obviously, but he didn't get hurt. Yeah, knock
yeah,
on
there was
wood. Hopefully,
somebody
it
else.
doesn't.
But either way, like, isn't it
Yeah.
wild that everyone our fans have wanted
Don't you
got good
think?
calls?
Don't you think that that highlights what you just said to me? Highlights better than anything how broken the system of free agency is in Major League Baseball.
Yes,
The fact that these guys are 30 years old before they can even make money, like
yes.
serious money, like they're getting paid fine. Obviously, we know that, but I'm saying before they can actually capitalize on their market value is when they're declining in their career. That's why these deals don't work
It's
because you're
why.
paying a guy for 8 years that's already played for 8 years and he's 30 years old or
Well, it's great.
32.
Every NFL player wants to be an MLB player because of the contracts. They're still better than the
Guaranteed
NFL
money.
contracts. But every athlete wants to be an NBA guy because if you
Oh
are a
yeah,
guy in the NBA at 25, 24, you're on a max deal already.
look at Jalen Brown,
Already.
dude.
Right. Zion, like here in
Yeah,
New
Jason
Orleans.
Tatum. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you can fill in that. You can fill in that with a lot of people, and I think a lot of it's the minor league system slows everything down, the development. But there's also a lot of collusion
manipulation.
among teams that keep that price down, and
I
I
mean,
just
yeah.
can't be told otherwise.
And one of the biggest things about it too, like think about Jordan Walker lost his rookie status last year, but we still have 6 more years of control over him because he was down when he was down.
Yeah,
Like that's just one example of like that guy's now going to be 1 year older than he would be going into free. That's losing a year of getting paid way more than he's going to get
yep.
paid now. Like that, it sucks. It's a horrible system. But that's the thing to me though. Like you look at these pitchers to go to free agency, and like for me, I understand why teams don't want to pay Blake Snell $200 million. Like it's reasonable. It's unreasonable for him to want that. I'm not for him to want that, but for anyone to expect him to actually get that, it's not going to happen. However, it really sucks that he can't get that because he's won
Right.
2 Cy Youngs. Like, how many 2 time Cy Young winners are there in the history of baseball? I'm not going to look it up, but I can't
Let's
imagine
look.
it's more than like 10 to 15. Like I don't think it's even 20. There's no way.
Yeah,
Like
I would say
it's
it's
a
closer to
rare
20
error.
than you think when you look
Maybe.
at the greats of the past. But either way,
But
your
there's no
point is
way
still
it's like
spot on.
50. There's no way it's
Right.
50.
Well, no, because
Like
I don't
that's
even think
how
the Cy
rare
Young
he
awards like I don't even know how
exactly.
old that award is, but
But my point
um
is that's how rare the accomplishments he's had already are. And he's not even
it's
getting paid.
it's also interesting. I think you see, speaking of contracts, these young guys, the Braves have done it. We saw with Bobby Witt. We've seen it with other young guys. The money they're getting, by the way, astronomical. Don't get me
It's
wrong.
crazy. Yeah.
And
Good for
it's
him.
guaranteed money. So at age 22, 23, to get guaranteed money is great. But they're still not going to get what they're going to be worth in 4 years. That's why you're already hearing people in Atlanta, like fans, we get a bunch of them in the golf course talking about they're scared because Riley's going to need to be re-upped. Acuna's going to need to be re-upped.
Riley just
Albies,
signed a contract.
okay, whoever, Albies, Acuna,
It's
whoever.
Albies and Acuna are the big
Okay,
ones.
there you go. that are gonna, eventually you're gonna have to. They're gonna say we need paid, which is weird when you sign the contract. There's a whole lot of questions in there.
Well, I think Acuna's contract was 10 years from when he signed it, which I believe was like 4 years ago. So
Yeah,
he probably has like it still has like 6 years. That might be him and Albies have the two worst contracts ever signed.
I know.
Like ever. And I get it, it's hard to turn down. Like I think for Albies was like $45 million for 8 years. It's hard to that's a lot of money. Like for major league numbers, it seems incredibly small because it is.
Yeah,
But for like a kid that came from, I believe he's from Venezuela. I think that's right. No, Curacao. He's from Curacao,
yeah,
I think.
yeah.
And you're not turning that money down. That's $45
No,
million you're getting.
no.
That's crazy amount of money. But
Um,
it sucks for those two. They should be
back
getting
to
paid a
the
lot more.
Cardinals. Back a little bit to the Cardinals. What is the update on Tommy Edman?
He's not going to be ready for opening day. That's my update. I don't care what they say. First off, okay. So 3 days ago, the update was I'm frustrated because this team and their injury
It's
reports
getting
are so
bad,
annoying.
dude.
It's like hockey when you can tell they don't tell you what the hockey injuries are because they
Upper
don't want
body.
someone on the ice to exploit it, right? They
Mhm.
don't want to tell you as an ankle injury because they don't want someone to purposefully hit a slap shot into his ankle.
Correct. Yeah.
But that's not how baseball works. But the thing that's frustrating to me is 2 3 days ago, the update was progressing well. Okay, cool. I don't know what that means, but it sounds promising. Today or yesterday, I guess, the update was, oh yeah, Tommy hasn't hit off a tee in like 5 days. He had a setback, so he just started hitting off the tee again today, and he still hasn't faced a pitcher. He hasn't taken coach flips. They said, which by the way, the fact that I don't know what journalists called them coach flips, but it made me laugh. It's just called soft toss for future reference. Uh, it's not great. It's not great. I don't think.
Who did not play baseball as a kid? That's what I want to
Coach
know. Who said
flips.
that?
It made me laugh. I'm not going to tell you, but it made me
Okay, that's
laugh.
fine. I don't need to know. Yeah. How do you see this right now changing the NL Central? Like,
Before we get to
I
that, let's
okay,
continue with
sure,
Tommy
sure.
Edman for a second because I do
Oh,
think this
I
is
thought I
relatively
thought
big news.
you'd already moved on.
No, because okay, I don't think Victor Scott the second should make this team. That's where I'm at as of today. Because from what I've seen, he's done some impressive things. One of the best that really stood out to me was he had like a 7 pitch at bat against Josh Hader. They ended in like 105-mile-per-hour line out to the center fielder. Very impressive. That's an impressive thing to do. And then his next at bat, he hit a triple. So he is very exciting, and I'm really pumped to see him in the big leagues whenever that happens. However, Dylan Carlson to me deserves that opportunity first. No matter what Victor Scott does this spring, you cannot tell me that negates Dylan Carlson's 4 years of earning an opportunity. I don't believe that. But the Cardinals are leading Victor Scott off in games. The Cardinals.
No.
There was a game I watched where guess who was in center field? Victor Scott. Guess who was in right field? Dylan Carlson. So I do think they are looking at him as a potential to make this roster. Like I think they're at least open-minded to the idea, which is not where I thought they'd be at this point. But I still don't like the idea, but I think they're considering it.
Let me ask you this. I know we're going to do our outfield profile later in the week. All right?
Mhm.
And I know that this is going to be a big topic, so I don't want to
Next
step
week.
on that. What is today? I don't even know what today is, bro.
Thursday is when we're releasing this.
Okay. So Sunday, we're going to do that. Oscar night. All right? So we're going to do it then. Okay? And I know we're going to talk about this in depth, so I don't want to do that too far. But at what point do you start to say, we loved Dylan Carlson at one point, but he might not just be our guy? Like, I don't know the line of saying just because he's been here 4 years, give him the first shot versus let's get the guy in there. And I'm not saying this is Victor Scott. I'm not even taking a stand now.
That's who it is, though. Like that's who
I get
is.
it, but I'm not taking a stand because honestly, I can't see half the games here because we're only showing them every once in a while, which I also understand. I'm just saying I've only got to see like 3 games.
No, I hate it. It's stupid.
So I do too. But when does it become, let's go ahead? And I said this last time when you said, should he get an opportunity? And I said, yes, because in my opinion, I want the best guy we have in that position. So where does it become? Like we did this last year with Paul DeYoung. And I'm not saying Mason when was ready. So I know it's I understand that. But we did it for 4 years it felt like with Paul DeYoung. When you could have had Tommy Edman at shortstop last year, every day.
So your question is when? Here's my problem, and this is the thing that's really sticking out to me, is I felt like last year was a really bad situation for Jordan Walker to start the year. Not because he didn't deserve his opportunity, and not because He wasn't good enough. That's not that. It's the fact that they started out 10-24 and all of it got put on his shoulders when he got sent down. Right. And like, that's not what they were trying to do, but that's how it probably felt to him when he got sent down. I would imagine
Well,
a little bit.
Wilson would like a word.
And both, right, both. But I think Walker was sent down before that Wilson problem. Yeah, he was. So it
Okay.
was before that. Um, but they're in a really tough schedule to start the year. We just talked about it against some of the best pitchers in baseball, the best pitching teams in baseball. Is that really the best time to give Victor Scott his first opportunity to
Let,
start the year coming off the worst year under this regime where they need to start well? They cannot go through another, even 5 or 6 games under 500. You cannot bury yourself again. Is that really the time you give him the opportunity?
let me
I don't think so. And he might not be ready anyway.
Right. I agree with that. I agree with all that. And please understand that I'm not taking a stance, and we're going to get into this on Sunday. We'll carry this a little bit further on then. But let me just last question for this right here. Now put on your baseball evaluator hat.
It was
Okay.
already on.
Do you believe that Dylan Carlson is a dramatic upgrade over Victor Scott for this team to be better against that same group that you're playing against for the first 16 games?
I don't know if he's even an upgrade, but I also don't know if I care because I don't think it should be as simple as who's better when you're talking about developing a prospect. I don't
Okay.
think it should be dumbed down to that because there's so much more at stake for a prospect than just is he maybe a tick better than Dylan Carlson, which by the way, odds are he's not right now. The odds are Dylan Carlson will produce more this year at the big league level than Victor Scott if we're just playing a probability game. Just because we've seen him do it.
Where
We
did
haven't
you
seen Victor
build?
Scott do
Okay.
it.
Okay. That's fair. Now, do you think Atlanta was having this discussion with Michael Harris 2 years ago when he
When he was
jumped
down
from
for the
Double A?
first 2 months, probably.
Was he down for the first 2 months? I thought he came up sooner than that. I thought it was only a month.
Either way, he didn't start the year there.
But he came up from Double A. That's all I'm saying.
So did Jordan Walker.
Right. Right. I
So the
agree.
Cardinals aren't like against doing it. I just think you have to pick your spots. And I'm not saying he's not ready. He might be, but what are the odds Victor Scott is 100% ready to go into Chavez Ravine and be better than Dylan Carlson right now? They're very low. I can
Are they?
say that probably
Are are
because at
they?
least Dylan Carlson's going to do well against lefties. Like we know that. So against like
Who? What lefty they facing?
James Paxton.
Game 4. So let Dylan Carl fine. Play Scott the first 3 and put Dylan in
But
there
I
game
just don't
4.
agree with that because one, we don't even watch. Neither of us have watched Scott enough to even know this. But like the guy hasn't played in AAA. Like it's tough. And he also, by the way, not having that good of a spring.
I agree. Please
He has like a
understand.
600 OPS in spring. It's not as
I just
impressive
don't
as
know
some are
that when
making it
it's
seem.
Dylan Carlson at this point. And I hate that because I've been a fan of his since he got called up, since he was in the minor leagues. I've been a fan of Dylan Carlson. I have been completely on his side, probably to a fault. But it
Yeah.
sure feels like the progression that we wanted to see from Dylan Carlson has not in fact, I think you could make the argument the regression of Dylan Carlson is what has happened over the last 3 years. And
Well,
the
there's no
injuries
argument
were
against
part of
that.
that.
He's
But
gotten worse. It's just a fact.
agreed.
But I do think there is part of me that also thinks if Tommy's out for, let's just say Tommy's out for 2 weeks. It might be more, it might be less. Who knows? Let's just say he's out for the first 2 weeks. Isn't this like your last time to say, Dylan, take a job if you want it? Like, but why, Dad? Why? Why?
I
Why? Why
please
would you
understand.
bring someone up to
I
call him down?
I don't have enough. I don't know that, and I don't think it's necessarily fair to Victor Scott or Jordan Walker to make that comparison. Just because we saw Jordan, and actually Jordan Walker wasn't terrible when he was here
I didn't
offensively.
say
He
he
was
was.
not.
Well,
Right.
defensively, he was like,
Well, he was terrible all year.
gosh, it was like,
So
what? Dude,
right.
his
I mean that
defensive
didn't get
stats are
better.
so much worse than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah,
He was like the worst
his
fielder in
defense did
baseball.
not get better throughout the year. So
It got better
that's
the second half, but
okay.
you're getting better from a turd, but it was still better. It was a polished
My
turd.
my point is Victor Scott different than Jordan Walker. That's all I'm saying.
They're different
You
players,
never
of
know
course,
how one
but
is going to do because one failed doesn't mean one will do well or won't
I'm
do
not
well.
saying
That's
he
all I'm saying.
will. And also, I don't think Jordan Walker failed. That's not the point I was trying to make. I think the way the season started, it was not as beneficial for Jordan Walker's development as him being in AAA for the first couple of months.
Can I say this?
I
This is the last thing I'll say about it.
yeah,
Okay.
go
And
ahead.
if you want to add something to it, please do. I think if Victor Scott is in center field on opening day and the Cardinals struggle in the first 2 weeks, I think it would be the most short-sighted thing of all time, no matter what he did, to put that on Victor Scott.
I'm not saying you would, but you would send him down with Tommy Edman's back. Like that's what's going to happen. They're not benching Tommy Edman. They're not.
I think that's so. I think what you just said right there is all the reason in the world to put Victor Scott at AAA. Right there, that
That's what I've
sentence
been
that you just
saying.
said.
That's what
So
I'm
we had a
saying.
4-minute discussion when you could have just said that, and there would have never been a
I said
discussion.
that. I said that 3 days ago on our podcast.
Well, first of all, I'm not even really positive what I just ordered for dinner when we went out, so I do not remember what you said 3 days ago.
I think it's a combination, like everything. Like, okay, I'm getting frustrated. Everything that combines here, like Tommy Edmonds not getting benched, even though I do think maybe in August, if Victor Scott's 100% ready, and it's like this guy's tearing it up, he's stolen 80 bases again, and he's better than Edmund now because Edmund's struggling at the plate again against righties. Maybe your best role for Tommy Edman isn't to be an everyday player. Maybe it's to face lefties and to fill in defensively everywhere. Maybe that is eventually where they get to. But right now, Tommy Edman's not, he's going to be an everyday player. So you combine that with the fact that Dylan Carlson, we've seen him have success at the big league level multiple times. And odds are, probability wise, he is better than Victor Scott at this moment in the
Okay.
major leagues. So combine those two things, it makes no sense to me to call him up. Unless he just goes on like he bats 500 the rest of spring with 8 triples. And it's just like, we have to do it like Albert did in 2001 when there were veterans like Mark McGwire that said, he's coming with us. You're putting him on this team. Unless
Well,
that
shout out to
happens.
Bobby Bonilla, by the way, for getting hurt.
Yeah. Well, maybe Tommy Edmonds are Bobby Bonilla.
Bro, did you just put that in the atmosphere?
Oh, he is hurt.
You
I
just
mean, I
put that
didn't say he's
right
gonna
out in
get
the
hurt. I said
universe.
he is hurt.
It I will go back and we'll address this a little bit more. So I don't want to it's just frustrating to me when you see someone with so much talent like a Dylan Carlson not become what we wanted him to be.
Mhm.
And it's also so frustrating for me when you see so much with somebody up and coming with so much talent in Victor Scott be suppressed because we have a guy we're paying more to and that we think it should be
It's
there.
not about
Even though
money.
hold on, Victor Scott as in center field is in my opinion leaps and bounds ahead of Tommy Edman. That's what
Have
I'll
you
say.
watched him?
Victor, I've seen 3 games. That's all I've seen because I
Okay,
can't
so
get him
so
on
then you
TV.
so then what I'm hearing is you can't make that assessment.
I watched him last year, yes, in Springfield, yes, and I know that's AA. But you can't tell me that you believe Tommy Edman's arm is better than Victor Scott's. You can't.
I can tell you that Tommy Edmonds' outs above average were like one of the best in center field when he was playing out there. I can tell you that.
And I can tell you that I believe Victor Scott's would have been better.
Based off what?
My mind,
Okay,
this
so you're
beautiful
just saying
thing
so
right in
what I'm
between these two
hearing is
AirPods.
you're spewing bullshit because he's fast. That's what I'm hearing. So like he might be. We'll see. He's supposed to develop out there. He's not perfect as a center fielder either. He's young. He's very young. Like give him some time. Let him play AAA for a few
You're
months,
right. I
please.
think you're right. And we talked about that last time. I think you're right. It just I don't know that I necessarily agree with the idea that just because Dylan Carlson has been here for 4 years, that's the guy who gets the first crack at it
Yeah.
because of the regression. Like I think
Well, that's
that
not the
has to
only
go.
reason I gave you, Dad. I
Well, it
said
felt like
two
that was the big
things.
one. It did feel like
That's
that was
one
the
of
big one.
them. But then you couple that with the fact that if Tommy Edman, when Tommy Edman's back, Victor Scott back down immediately, unless he's
That's
great.
the big one. That's a good one. Thank you.
Put both together, it makes no sense.
I don't like the first one. Let's just go with number 2.
Yeah, Dylan Carlson never deserves another opportunity in this team again. Sure.
What
Now you're
happens to
making.
Alex
Now
Carlson? I
I'm
can't wait to
sweating.
talk about that. I can't
He
wait to
goes
get
to
your take on
AAA.
that next week. I can't wait to get your take on that next
He
week.
goes to play
Anything else
right
we need to
behind
get to?
Victor.
Do you think Blake Snell or
No.
Montgomery, one or the other, sign before we do our next podcast on Oscar night when Oppenheimer just fucking destroys everyone? That was pun intended.
That's a horrible joke. That was so many
on
people, innocent people died.
on Oscar night.
And you just made that joke. So many innocent people died. There's still ramifications of that bombing. That's horrible. Okay. Let me collect my thoughts. One, do you think Cillian Murphy knows he's gonna win that Oscar? He has to know,
He
right?
knows. He's got the speeches already written.
Have you seen he's so like down to earth and seems so nice. I love him. Anyway, I was talking to Grace about this the other day. I was like, I wonder if they know. Like he knows Robert Downey Jr. knows he's winning.
Yes.
Like you can be as humble as you want. You're winning the Oscar. Everyone knows it.
Yes.
Either way, moving on.
Also, Lily Gladstone also knows she's going to win.
She better win it. She was awesome.
Right.
Leo not being nominated is a crime, but that's a different story. Yeah. No, I don't think so. I don't think they're
Okay.
signing.
Let me ask you this then. Final question. Final Jeopardy. Final question. Does that if you're an organization that I obviously they're working out, we know that, but them not getting any live like workouts with a team and getting I mean actual throwing progressions and things. I know they're working out on their own. I understand that, but do you think that really concerns a team? Like with a guy like Montgomery and Snell both? I mean, that has to be a concern, doesn't it? To not for them to come in at the end of spring training and have a week and a half to get ready for opening day.
Yeah, I don't think these guys would be ready right now.
I don't
That was one
either.
of the things I wanted to say earlier when we were talking about this, and it just slipped my mind. If the Cardinals sign Blake Snell right now, is it a guarantee he's pitching when Sonny's out?
No, that's what I'm asking. That's what I'm
Yeah,
asking.
so I don't think it's a guarantee. Like Boris will tell you that they're ready to go and all that, and sure, maybe. But here's the problem with that as well. Even if they're like, what if they're like just a couple weeks behind because they're not you can do as much as you want. You're not simulating spring training games. It's impossible to do.
Agreed.
So if they're even 2 weeks behind, but now Blake Snell's trying to ramp up and rush it, maybe just a tad, rush it a tad bit to get ready for opening day, and then he gets hurt and you just gave him $30 million. Like
Yeah.
it's slippery. And I wanted to see this because Lance Lynn signed very late in the offseason, I believe in like 2019. And I wanted to see when that was. It was the middle of March. And I don't think he made his spring training start. He's a Boris client. Yeah, he signed like March 16th, I think, with the Rangers. And he missed he missed a couple starts on opening day. So there's precedent for these guys not being ready when they
Yeah.
sign this late.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that's an interesting thing to watch as well. Let's go Miles Michaelis. I guess we have to hop on the Lizard King's wagon and attach ourselves to that and hope that we get a decent Miles instead of the Miles
I think we'll get a
that we
good
saw
one.
last
I
year.
actually have a lot of faith in Miles coming this year. I don't
Okay,
know
I'm
why
glad.
really, but I
I'm
do.
glad.
Because I when he looks pretty good in spring, like spring, I get it. But he looks more like 2022 than he did. Like even last year in spring, he didn't look right to me. I thought
Well,
he
that
looked
was
a little bit
WBC
off.
related, right?
Yeah,
I
there's a lot
mean,
of reasons, but I
yeah.
do think he looks more like normal Miles to me than he did
Okay.
last year. How much? This is the last thing that we can go. How much does our outlook on this season change? Like, let's just given Sonny Gray's not out for a significant amount of time. Okay, how much of our outlook of the season changes if Miles Michaelis can repeat even like 80% of what he did in 2022?
I mean, I think that's a huge bump for this
He was a
rotation.
number two in 2022.
Right.
Like we can argue whether his talent there and strikeout stuff, all that, those are all fair points. But at the end of the day, he performed like one that year.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah. I'm not going to count on that, but I will be
That'd be
gleefully
awesome.
excited if that does
Mm.
gleefully excited. That's the same fucking word. I will be
Yeah.
very excited if that happens.
There you go. Yeah, I do. And I'm not going to count
I
it out. I do
strongly
think a lot of
agree.
people are. Okay, cool. I do think a lot of people like are dismissing it, and maybe that's fair. He is getting older, and last year he wasn't very good. But I do think there's a chance he's like, if he's just a 3.5 to 3.7 ERA and gives you 200 innings, that's so much better than he was last year, and
Agreed.
that's a bunch more wins than you were getting last year out of him, and that would be huge. So he needs to be good this year. A lot of pressure's on him,
Yeah. I
especially
agree.
to start the year.
Yep. Anything else?
No, I'm just frustrated. I saw a picture of this little kid wearing an Otani jersey today, and I wanted to punch him in the face. How lucky are these Los Angeles Dodgers kids that their Christmas was, what jersey do I want? Otani or Yamamoto or
Or
Glass
Betts
now?
or Freeman?
Like, how lucky are you that your Christmas present was
Well,
Otani, Yamamoto, Glass now?
first of all, did you see the new jerseys? They didn't want any one of those.
Well, he had one on, and I wanted to punch him
Well,
in the throat
that
because how
they,
lucky
by the
is
way,
that kid?
DH Gate has them.
How lucky is that kid, by the way? He doesn't know. He's like 8
No.
years old, and he gets to watch the greatest baseball player to ever walk this earth on his own team.
And if you're going to be 20 feet behind the kid, you won't know either because the lettering's so small. So whatever.
What's that say? What's that say? Oh, Otani?
No clue what that means right there or what that says and why does it look like it like a moon? Why does it do that? But yeah, okay. I got nothing else. I am excited for our outfield preview because I do want to get back into the Victor Scott thing. And I think maybe we'll have a little bit more clarity on it come Sunday. Maybe not, but that is
No, it
3 days,
won't.
4 days away. We
We
will not.
definitely
We won't
won't.
know anything. I don't know what to say. I can't wait to hear you go off on Dylan Carlson. So I'm ready for that.
I love Dylan Carlson.
Sure.
I hope he
Um,
plays well.
yep, me
You're
too.
the one hating on him today.
I did
What did
not.
we?
I did
I'm
not. I
endorsing
simply
him as the center fielder.
Did I say anything that was not factual?
You said he's not good anymore. Get this guy cut.
Not what I said at all. Not what I said at all. Nope, nope, nope.
Check
Not
the
what I said.
tape. Check the
All right,
tape.
guys. Hey, thank you so much for listening and watching. We greatly appreciate you. If you'd hit that subscribe button, we would also greatly appreciate that. Hopefully we'll know a little bit more about this Victor Scott Dilla Carlson
We're
thing.
not.
We will know how many Oscars Oppenheimer has when we talk to you next. We will be back with our outfielder player profiles, and that should be pretty exciting. I'm pretty ready to go. So we will talk to you soon. Go Cards.